Pittsburgh woman believes her lease is not being renewed because she reported mold concerns at her home. This is KOAM News at 6. I'm Dow Quick. She says she's fought the mold issue for years, with KOAM even reporting on the problem back in 2019. KOAM Samantha Walker sat down with the woman to learn more about why she believes she's not being allowed to stay.
When I go to my work, and I hug the kids when they come in the school, and they give me a hug and they say, "Miss Ledbetter, your clothes stink." That's a problem. It's a problem. And I just laugh it off, and then I go in my office and I sit and cry because I'm disgusted.
When Susan Ledbetter moved into her home at the Pittsburgh Highland Housing Development 6 years ago, she believed it would be a place to make great memories with her family. But she says for years now, she struggled with mold issues. Ledbetter says she reported the mold problems every time, both to the previous and the current property management companies. She says when she reported her concerns to the regional property manager, she received back a text saying, "Not mold again," with a crying face emoji.
Every time I walk into the house and get a migraine, I know the mold is back. When my daughter walks in and instantly starts hacking and coughing, we know the mold is back.
In August, Ledbetter says the mold was the worst it has ever been. The property owner moved her into a hotel for a week, as even her floors had to be replaced. Soon after she moved back into her home, she says she received a notice that her lease is no longer being renewed. Ledbetter believes it's because she has consistently reported the issues with mold.
They don't want to renew the lease when they already sent me. They've already invited me to stay. You see this? They've already invited me to stay. And then they're taking it away. So there's so many things wrong with this.
We reached out to the molding management company who manages the development for a statement. The CEO says any mold issues at the development are resolved. He says the company is not the true owners of the property, and he declined to provide further information about the ownership. For now, Ledbetter says that she and her teen daughter will have to live apart until they can find a new home. She says other tenants have similar concerns, but are now fearful to speak up. Ledbetter says she's concerned for whoever moves in after her.
People say, "Why don't you just leave?" Because why is it that people just let people continue to walk all over them and get away with something? They're a multi-million-dollar company. This is nothing for them. They are bullying me. They're making me leave. Because why? Because I asked them to fix something. I've been asking them for years. If they would have taken care of it years ago, we wouldn't be sitting here. But they didn't take care of it.
Reporting in Pittsburgh, Samantha Walker, KOAM News.
We reached out to the city of Pittsburgh and were told they have not received previous reports of mold at the development. Since then, Ledbetter says she reached out to the city commissioners, the community development and housing director, and the Pittsburgh Housing Authority. She says she's looking at her legal options to try to make sure this doesn't happen to other tenants.
Welcome back, 8:20. Joining us now via FaceTime, we have Claudette Reichel. She joins us from the LSU Ag Center. Good morning, Claudette. Thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure.
Wonderful. Okay, so today we're talking about something that an issue that people will have as they go through their cleanup recovery efforts from Hurricane Laura, and that is mold.
Absolutely. I mean, even though we didn't have as much flooding as people expected, because many people had leaks, had roof damage and had water get inside and then no power for an extended period of time, they're going to face a mold cleanup situation.
So, just if you could kind of touch on how bad for you really is mold, and what is the difference between, let's say, regular mold and black mold?
Black mold is really a misnomer. That's really kind of a meaningless term because many species are black. That term was coined, years ago, really for a special type called Stachybotrys, which tends to grow only on cellulose that's been totally saturated for at least a week. So it's possible that could be there. That type can produce some fairly potent toxins, but actually the more common types of indoor mold can produce toxins too. However, mold is not necessarily a death sentence. Mold, some people are much more sensitive than others, The most common reaction is an allergic type reaction or problems for people who have asthma, but it can also make folks more susceptible to illness, reduce immunity. But then heavy exposure or long time exposure really is considered unhealthy for anyone. So you do need to tend to it. Plus, it's bad for the structure itself.
Right. Well, listen, we have about 30 seconds left here. So what, if any, is your biggest tip when cleaning up mold?
Well, actually, the biggest tip is that to not just douse it with bleach or something like that,
right,
because it's much, much more effective to remove the mold rather than just try to kill it, because the dead mold spores and the residue has, the same health effects as live mold, except it just won't reproduce.
Right.
So removing moldy materials, but first of all, wearing protective gear. If you can get N95 or better respirator, I know it's hard to get because of the pandemic, that really is best. Goggles, gloves, and so forth. Try and ventilate and isolate the area to the outdoors. Remove the porous materials that are moldy, the carpeting and the so forth, and padding, and get rid of it. And then clean the materials that are cleanable with just a regular detergent solution to remove the mold.
Good deal.
Disinfection is needed if there's bacteria. If there's sewage contamination or flooding, then you do need to disinfect. Otherwise, it's optional. After that, speed dry. The faster you can dry with dry air, like get dehumidifiers, the more effective it will be. And then remain on mold alert. The LSU Ag Center online has a fact sheet that we have done, a 2-page fact sheet that provides 10 steps to do it yourself, safe and effective mold removal. It's called Mold Removal Guidelines for Your Flooded Home. And even if you didn't flood, it's the same guidelines apply. So I'd encourage people to find that online.
Well, we will also put that on our website for people as well. Claudette, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Oh, you're quite welcome. And thank you for doing this, because a lot of folks really need this information.
You are very right about that. Well, listen, guys, stay with us.
Right here, I don't know if you can see this. They cut a hole out here when one of the floods happened.
Megan Paul's family moved into Saddlebrook less than a year ago, and so far, she says they've experienced a ceiling caving in, doors falling off the hinge, flooding, and mold.
At this point, I'm more concerned about the mold issue and finding the root of that problem.
Even after placing air purifiers in every room, she claims the mold has become so bad they hired an outside professional to conduct an analysis. This report lists where mold is present. Now she's worried for her family.
We don't have the opportunity to just up and leave and up and find another place with 4 kids.
11 News reached out to Westminster Pillar Management, owned by Kushner Companies. Their response is, quote, "Our residents are very important to us, and we can assure you that any such complaint would be addressed immediately." Going on to ask Paul to reach out to her property manager, which she claims she has done many times.
They're trying to put a Band-Aid on it, is what it feels like.
It appears to be the same property company, once owned by former President Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, that agreed to pay more than $3 million to Marylanders in September. The AG's office said at that time the company deceived tenants by showing them model apartments on tours, only for folks to end up in units in complete disrepair. Paul says that's the situation she's stuck in right now.
Some accountability for the pain and just the emotional toll that it's taken, especially with 4 kids, always being sick and just not knowing what it is and just worrying and the sleepless nights.
According to the website, Kushner Companies owns 11 different communities in the state of Maryland, including Saddlebrook. Meantime, Paul tells us that she has also reached out to the Department of Health. Live in Baltimore County, I'm Tommy Clark, WBAL TV 11 News.